Hey everybody, so welcome back in our discussion about the vagus nerve and ways that we can kind of hijack it and make it feel like it's calmed down enough to let us get out of our fight or flight response. So just a quick little summary of what we learned last time is that the vagus nerve goes from the back of our head all the way down our body, and it is attached to all of our organs that are in our body. And the reason for this nerve, and it's the largest nerve in our body, and the reason that we have this nerve is because if something happens, if we are in a threat, if we see a tiger and we're out and something leaps at us, that the vagus nerve shuts everything down that we do not need to survive and kind of pumps up the things that we do. So that is kind of why we have that fight or flight response. So when something happens that triggers that fight or flight response, or you will notice your heart racing fast and your breathing kind of going faster and heavier like that. And that is just so our blood can pump faster, we can digest our food faster so we have more sugar that'll get our muscles going and we can get away from the tiger that's getting ready to attack us. We don't necessarily need other parts of our body, so it kind of shuts those things down. So it doesn't really need to digest something or make you think of philosophizing about the world. So our frontal lobe gets shut down, things that we really don't need for survival at that moment. Then it kind of shuts those things down and says, all right, these ones really need to go into hyper mode to save us. So that is the job of the vagus nerve, which is amazing because it saves our lives. The problem is that if we have had to use that often, and we see this in people who have had trauma in their past, or even if they were in the womb and their parent, their mother had trauma during that time, it also stimulated that vagus nerve a lot. So whenever that experience happens to us often, that vagus nerve gets kind of inflamed and kind of hypervigilant, and it notices anything that might be happening, so that shutdown and going really fast stuff just happens constantly. And that's one of the things that can make us feel anxious, irritated, angry, and can really just wreck our mental health sometimes. So I'm going to tell you guys some ways that we can kind of hijack our vagus nerve so that whenever we're walking through our day, if we notice something getting ready to trigger it, that we can kind of calm ourselves down and go about our day. So we need to think about it as it is attached to our major organs. So let's say that it shuts everything off, our frontal lobe is now not working. So a good way to get our frontal lobe back online is to do very simple tasks. And that's why we say that meditation and mindfulness is really important to get that fight or flight anxiety response kind of under control. So to get our frontal lobe back on, things that we can do are see things, hear things, smell things. So doing the come to your senses thing where you see something, hear something, taste something, feel something is a great way to get your frontal lobe back online. Other things is I am going to see if I see 7 purple things in the room. I usually use the color purple just because that's a harder color to usually find, so it takes a little bit of time and looking around to find it. So any very small task you can do to get your frontal lobe back online is a great way to get your vagus nerve kind of to calm down. Yoga is another great way that you can kind of experience a calming factor. And you got to think of it as muscle memory. So if you're practicing yoga on a daily basis and breathing in and knowing your next movement to breathe out and breathe in, then you're learning that breathing skill so that when something does happen that does trigger it, then you're ready to okay, this is what I do whenever I feel upset. So it's not a great idea to go into a stressful situation. You're having a panic attack in Walmart and you're all right, tree pose. It's not going to work that way, but it is going to work if these are things that you have to kind of practice daily to put in your routine to get that muscle memory ready for when it does happen. So these are not great things to do just in the spur of the moment, but they're things to kind of make your nerve healthier. So you want to think of it as a muscle, though it's not, it's a nerve, but you're not going to go to a competition, a weightlifting competition, and pick up 300 pounds. Like, that's just not going to happen. You have to kind of practice that every day so that when you are at the competition, you're ready to lift. So just kind of give you a little idea of like, this is not something to do in that moment. Though these things do happen, mindfulness does work. Mindfulness does work in the moment, but to make it work to its most efficient way is to practice it every day. Some other things you can do to kind of help your vagus nerve is to eat dark chocolate. So dark chocolate is something that gives our brain dopamine, and when our brain is feeling dopamine, it's like, oh yay, everything's good, everything feels great. It doesn't mean eat a whole candy bar of dark chocolate, but it just means, have a piece of dark chocolate each day. Could be a really great way to kind of give you a little dopamine boost. So a lot of the nerve endings kind of come right here in our throat from our vagus nerve. So some things that people do that really helps, and I know that you guys out there who love concerts can feel this, is that whenever you sing loudly, or if you're at church and you're singing and you're humming, right here, that really helps calms it down. It kind of like vibrates it. Chanting is another way to help vibrate, or even gurgling water is a great way to vibrate that sense in the vagus nerve. And right there, it can send a sense up, like it's like a massage for it, and it sends it up and says that we're relaxing. So that singing that you're doing really loud in the shower or at a concert, any of that, the singing you're doing at church or with other people, that's a great way to stimulate your vagus nerve. The next thing is your lungs. So our vagus nerve knows that we're like this. That's saying, oh, something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong, right? Fix it. We've got to figure this out, turn this on, turn this off, whatever. So hijacking it, you would learn to breathe slowly. And a great way is your 4-7-8 breath. And that is basically, you breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, and you breathe out for 4. And you do that, and then you breathe in for 7, hold for 7, breathe out for 7. And then you breathe in for 8, hold for 8, breathe out for 8. So you do those once. If that doesn't feel like it's completely got you calmed down, and then you can try it 2 or 3 times. But that's a great way to kind of hijack it and make you think that you're taking deep breaths, which you are, but that you've calmed yourself down. So that's a really great way to do that. Another one is getting your digestive system kind of back in track. So if you're noticing that like you're not eating healthy, and you're having a lot of stomach and GI issues, so maybe the microbial things in your belly are not quite right, you can get tests for that. Your doctor can test you for that, and use some kind of supplements or whatever you need to do to kind of get that back on track. And that's a great way to also help cleanse your stomach and make you feel like you're healthier and you have more energy, and that also helps your vagus nerve. Let's see, exercise. We haven't talked about that. So exercise is another great way. Whenever we exercise, we, 1, are more healthier, and 2, you have that dopamine boost in your brain that makes you feel good. And anytime you can get that dopamine boost in your brain through natural ways is a great way to get that vagus nerve kind of sorted out. So like I said, these are not things that you can always do in the moment. You can certainly do the breathing and the meditation and the mindfulness in the moment, but things like the exercise and getting your gut kind of in check, those are things that's kind of going to take a little bit longer. But the more that you can work the inflammation out of your vagus nerve and kind of get it calmed back down, you will notice that your anxiety level and your depression level, your anger level is going to decrease. Oh, and lastly, another great one is cold spurts. So if you're feeling kind of anxious or nervous pretty often, it's a great thing to get in the shower and just sit in the cold for like a minute and feel kind of chilly. And it kind of shocks your body for a moment and kind of teaches it like, oh, it's safe, I'm safe. When I feel this way, I can calm down. So that's just another kind of long-term way to kind of hijack your vagus nerve. So there's some really great techniques and strategies. If you guys have any questions, just put them in the comment box and I'll try to get to them. And you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks.